Welcome to the Sound Mind Strategy Podcast with your host, Evan
and Anina Blankenship.
This podcast is aimed to be an in-depth discussion between husband and wife power couple where we take on challenging topics in the mental health and wellness arena.
By trade and training, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, certified professional coactive coach, USA Cycling National Champion, and I love to push my limits both physically and mentally.
As for me, I am currently in a master's program for sport and performance psychology, where I'm also on track to become a certified mental performance consultant. I've also been coaching athletes for the last 5 years, helping them reach their truest potential.
We're both very passionate about athletic performance, mental skills training, spirituality, and we love to take a holistic approach to helping people find harmony in their mind, body, and spirit.
We believe that there's greatness inside of everyone. Our mission and the mission of this podcast is to help you unlock and operate within yours.
Hello and welcome back or welcome to the Sound Mind Strategies podcast. This is episode 14 with your hosts Anina Blankenship
and Evan.
Hello everyone.
Hello, how are you?
Doing fairly well.
Took you a minute.
I know.
On that,
I just woke up from a nap a while back ago and that felt really good.
Nice.
So that was nice to have that. And so I'm feeling a little more energized now. It's amazing what a nap can do for the mind and the body.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's great.
Yes.
You did have a full day in the sun today, didn't you?
I did. It was the state crit today. So I was out there. Cooper and I were supporting you, and so it was a full day. In the sun.
It was a fun day. It was hot. It was it was the Missouri State Criterium Championship races today. It was a lot of fun. We had a good turnout, good team turnout.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of other teams showed up. Good hard racing. I ended up doing 2 races today.
Yes.
Did the Masters 35 plus. I did turn 35 this actual last month.
Mm-hmm.
That was a tough, hard race. Like the field was small. And sometimes that actually makes for a harder race. There's less places to hide, less wheels to sit on. So we got a breakaway established kind of early. So there was 5 of us in there, and I got a little greedy on the road. I had a teammate in the break with me, and then a couple other, then it was 3 other just individual guys. They ring a bell, for a preem lap, they call it, where it's a kind of a race within the race. Just the winner across the line for this specific lap gets a cash prize or whatever it is. So this one ended up being a cash prize, and got a little greedy thinking the guy I had with me is a good sprinter. So I was going to try and set him up, and it's just a hard day. And then so they attacked off that move, and then we missed the split, unfortunately. So him and I chased the rest of the day, and we ended up getting 3rd and 4th on the road, and one of the guys was from Illinois. So championship wise, I was 2nd for Missouri. And then we come back later in the afternoon for the Pro 1-2 category 1-2 criterium, and try to do as much as I could early, knowing that it was the early race was gonna show up, and fatigue was gonna set in a little earlier than I thought, and ended up being a good race. We covered some moves. I gave him what I could, and we had good team representation, and teammate ended up getting the win. So we did great. Awesome. Yeah, so it was a fun day, and you were a trooper. I know you were hot, and there was no cloud cover at all. It was just blazing sun.
Little spots of shade, so that was helpful. But
yeah, you had Cooper out there, and so you found some shade or sat in the car and with the AC going a little bit. So
towards the end, we were both tuckered out. We're like, let's just get in the car.
I was very, very appreciative that you showed up, gave me the support. It was nice. Cheered me on and everything. So that was fun. It was a good day, fun day.
Yes, need those.
Yeah, so we had a busy weekend because the day prior, was supposed to be, in my original plan, was going to be the Missouri State Time Trial Championship, and in years past, I've always given that a run. I enjoy time trials. Oddly enough, they're kind of a hard event, but we were out of town. We had a funeral to attend.
Yeah.
Do you kind of want to share a little bit about that? And
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was my grandma's. I almost said wedding. Whoa, my grandma's funeral, and yeah. So she'd had a stroke a couple weeks ago, and just started going downhill from there. So it was a really sad day, but also a glorious one too, of just knowing that she's out of pain and with the Lord. So it just when a family member goes, it can be really hard, but really looked at holding on to the positive memories that we did have together and really just mulling over that more than anything. So that was really nice.
yeah, I mean, obviously we don't want anyone to suffer. We don't want pain. We don't want tragedy.
Mm-hmm.
So there's tragedy or pain. So it's like kind of a pick your poison kind of thing.
Right.
So yeah, we were definitely happy to see the pain stop.
Yes.
Yeah, it was fairly quick.
Yeah.
So it was nice that we were able to see her when she was talking and communicating still. So that was good. I know you were very happy about that because that was actually kind of when we were supposed to be in Vermont. So, and then she
had her stroke, and
yeah, she had a birthday actually then too. So, we were able to see her for her birthday. And then she did pass it a couple of days after. So
yeah.
So I don't want to, we love grandma, and we're just happy that she's in the pain's done. She's in a better spot. We are going to miss her tremendously, and
yes.
It was good to see some of your family and some family members from out of town that we don't get to see quite often. So we had some good catch up with them. So that was fun over dinner and everything too. So
yeah, and it was a good reminder of just really, for me anyways, is spending quality time with family. And sometimes that's something that it's, I don't know, for me sometimes it can get put on the back burner because I live further away, and it just makes it hard at times. So it really just helped me look at things a little bit differently, and really savoring those moments when we are together, and really trying to make more of those memories together with family.
Oh yeah,
too.
absolutely. And I think what you said is kind of hits it really clearly is, if the quantity can't be there, make it quality when it is there.
Exactly.
I mean, you can do what you can to make sure there's enough quantity. Even if you are out of town, you can call, you can text.
Yes.
I know my grandma and grandpa are still pretty savvy, and I just had a really good text conversation with my grandma over the weekend, so that was fun.
That is.
But it's just to make sure that communication is there. It's to make sure that relationship is still growing. It's like, but it's my grandma. Of course, we have a great relationship, but how often do we talk? How often do we communicate? How often do I say, I love you? Yeah, they know, but have they heard it in a while? So
exactly. Yeah. It really helps you. I
think
don't
it's
know,
important.
just grow up a little bit and think about things differently. For me, anyways, it did. So
yeah, I know. Obviously, having the baby is, having one on board is definitely helping cultivate new ideas for me. Being able to, this whole thing with your grandma, this whole incident, the stroke, and her passing, and definitely made me reflect over the last handful of years of just my priorities. And yeah, I will admit I did have some priorities messed up. Like I would kind of like skip certain things. Like I had this going on, but looking back, hindsight, like that's really, my priorities were a little out of whack. It was a little selfish, and I don't want to continue that.
exactly.
I want to do the things I want to do. I want to continue to push and grow personally, but my relationships, not only family, friends too. Like you need to cultivate that, and you need to be there for them. And I'm super grateful for the friends and family that have been there for me in my times of need. And I want to make sure that I'm there for the times when they need help and to celebrate them for their joyous moments too, right?
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thing about reflection, just reflecting on things, because there's so much value in that, and you just learn so much, like what you just said. It's like you learned, like, okay, maybe that was a selfish way of doing things, let me readjust now. And so that's what, I don't know, the power of reflection that I have used to never do. So it's really I don't know, it's really special to be able to do that now. And
I think one of the things that was really fun for me during that, I don't want to say fun, but just kind of eye-opening during that time of reflection when you and I were talking in the car driving, is I didn't bring an attitude of judgment.
Right.
And I noticed that, and you noticed that, and that's something that I typically would have done. Like, oh my gosh, I'm such a jerk, or
right.
You call yourself all these names, and you carry this weight, this heaviness of like, I'll never get that back. I did it so wrong. That's why they don't like me, or maybe they're mad at me for that. And it's just like, I was able to look at myself and my decisions and say, going forward, there's going to be a different way,
Yeah.
You don't get these opportunities back. I want to teach my son, this is how we treat people.
Right.
This is how you treat yourself. This is how you treat, this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and you bring up a good point about just how sometimes those stories we tell ourselves, like, oh, they're probably thinking this about me, they're probably thinking that about me. And it's like, I don't know, it's almost just like a waste of energy thinking like that. And it's like, you know what? Some people do. Yes. They don't realize that people grow and learn, and they still look at you like you're that 12-year-old child who, stole this and did that, like all these.
But then
things.
I think it's one, like, we can't change the way other people think about us or how they think about others, but we can change the way we view and the way we talk about others. And hopefully,
right.
That will give them the freedom to allow people to change. I think that was one of the big things, one of the big conversations that we noticed is just like, we have to, I think you and I are okay with it, but we noticed others don't allow other people to change. We heard in conversation that when they would speak about someone else, it was just like they would hold them to a negative thing that they did
years ago,
way in the past. And we know who they're talking about. We know that they've changed. They've had some massive change in their life, and they're not that way anymore. Or you and I, like, we all change. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago.
No, and I wouldn't want someone holding me to that. Like,
I've made some mistakes, plenty of them, and it's like, I've learned from those. But if I were to be held to those, that's not fair.
No.
Or the same thing. I'm not holding them to the mistakes that they made, the hurtful and hateful things that they said.
Exactly.
We said things in error. We said things in anger. Like, but that's not who you are, and I'm not going to hold you to that.
No. Kind of just having like a growth versus a fixed mindset. Like,
yeah, it's huge.
You read about, right?
Yeah.
It's like seeing noticing that people can change and believing it for yourself too, because sometimes it's hard for even for our own selves.
Wow, that's kind of like a little mini topic right there. But let's kind of keep going.
Yeah.
You got some baby updates, or how are we doing on that?
Yeah, so 14 weeks today, and so things are going pretty good. It's just the nausea is getting a little bit better, and the tiredness.
Awesome. I'm happy to hear that.
Yes, I am happy about that, and the tiredness is still there, but learn how to manage it. Trying to manage it. I was going to say naps do well. Yeah, it doesn't work quite in the work week, but, I just try to go to bed earlier and things like that to make up for work days. But,
yeah.
And I'm very energized by people. So when I'm around people all day, it like energizes me. So that helps keep me going. And then I, crash when I get home. But,
well, you've been doing really good. Like, I mean, when it's time for bed, you're in bed and you know when to start your routine, because I think that's where you'd get off. You're like, I had a really good evening routine, but you might get started late, which would put you in bed too late. So now like, this is how long it takes, and I'm going to be in bed at this time, and you've been nailing it. So I'm really proud of you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, cool.
And then what we said in a couple weeks, 6-7 weeks, we'll start to get to feel baby kicking.
In the little baby book that we've been reading that keeps us up on the what's going on and how things are progressing. Yeah, I said, I think it said about 6 to 8 weeks. It depends. And I think it did say, all you mothers out there will know and be able to correct me, and please do. But on your first, that it takes a little longer to feel the kicks.
So it said.
Yeah. But I think in the next 6 to 8 weeks, we'll start to have some kicks.
Yes, that'll be fun.
There's a little baby bump starting to show. It's pretty small, but it's we can
right.
see. Yeah.
Starting to get there a little bit. My clothes
Barely.
still hide it very well, so that's
Yeah,
good.
all your clothes are still kind of fitting. We're on the verge of like starting to think about needing some stuff. So
yeah, that's
very
true.
cool. If you have all you moms, if you have any suggestions on where she can get some things,
Yeah.
some good ideas, or
It's true.
have some stuff, whatever, we're
Right,
open,
yes.
open to that. Yeah. So very cool. What about postpartum goals? Do you have any goals to come back to? I've kind of picked one out for me for like some athletic endeavors for me for 2020.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get into that in just a second, but what do you got?
That is something I've thought about as far as like, okay, what do I want it to look like after having baby, just to kind of keep me moving and going and, just striving for something new. And, I've thought about different like gravel races, things like that, or, I don't know. And I've even thought about maybe running again, just like, kind of like more of a trot, but
You're a good runner.
Oh.
You are limited by stride length. She's pretty short if you haven't seen her. But
yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you are a good runner in your limited stride length.
Yeah.
Strong.
My little baby steps compared to your like one stride. Like
I'm also limited.
You're like a giant compared to me. No,
No, I'm not.
But yeah, so I've thought about that. And then I don't know, like you and I've kind of just tossed around different ideas of like, maybe going to like climb this mountain or go do this, or just trying to find something like just, I don't know, pretty cool to go do.
Yeah. So still kind of searching that out.
I'm still kind of searching that. Yeah.
Cool.
I still have like some things that I'm thinking about, but nothing that I've really like definitively said, this is going to be the thing, but I do want to have a thing. I just don't know what.
Very cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I kind of talked about the Katy Trail thing again this year. Like, and at first I was kind of all on board for that, but I've been mixing my training up a little bit more and kind of getting into some more high end work instead of just that long, slow distance kind of stuff. And I really have been liking that, but there's just something about those like epically long, hard, challenging days that just
they really excite you.
Still really appeal to me.
Yeah.
And they kind of fit my physiology a little bit better too. Like I'm definitely not a sprinter. I'm definitely not like a, super high power kind of guy, but I can kind of ride at a decent percentage of my threshold for a decent amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of stuff just appeals to me too. So I think for next year, we got to talking with some friends and I really want to give Leadville a go. So it's a 100-mile mountain bike race in Colorado. Mm-hmm. So you're already at elevation when you start, and then you just climb higher. So the elevation part is scary to me, but I think it's going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
We have some ideas on how to get, like, the race is hard to get in. Like, you even have to go through a lottery process. So maybe we can call in some favors and maybe make this like talk about how Leadville training is going or something like that. So I would love to work with some people, come up with some great ideas on how we can make that work. And then also there is a whole race series around this race. So there's, I forget offhand, but 6 to 8 maybe other races that are involved in this Leadville series. And of those, depending on how well you do, you can qualify and move you up into different starting corrals, because that's a big part of this race too, is there's so many people on some of these long climbs. If you get stuck behind people, you're kind of just like at their mercy at the pace that they go, because it gets very single file, hard to pass in certain areas. So I think, and I have brothers that live, each brother lives extremely close to one of these events. One's early June, one's late June. So I was like, perfect. why not make that part of a training regiment and then get ready for Leadville, which is middle August.
Yeah,
so,
that'd be perfect.
Yeah, so hit June and then go do that. Perfect. So
that'll be nice.
That's the plan. I'm going to pick out which one of those I want to do. One's Vermont, one's Minnesota. So if you've done either one of those and you have any feedback, I'd love to hear about it. If you've done Leadville and have any suggestions, like tire choices, equipment, travel, how you did it, what went right, what went poorly, please let me know. Like, I know there's a lot of logistic stuff behind that race. So I just want to go and have a good time. There's belt buckles depending on your finish time. So
fancy.
That'd be a goal, do that.
Give them those belt buckles.
Yeah, very cool. So I think that's fun. That's kind of where my mind is going.
Yeah.
Just kind of I love training. I love riding. So if I can just keep finding new goals and new areas to push myself and just new experiences too. So that'd be kind of fun.
Exactly. Keep you focused on things, and that'll be good. Little baby will be couple months old, but February.
Yeah, 6 months old. Yeah, something like that. So that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
Be out there, baby, be out there. That'd be fun.
Cheering dad on.
Yeah. So that's kind of a big update. We kind of got on a little mini topic early on, but let's get into kind of our big topic for discussion today.
The meat of the discussion.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. How do vegans say that?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think that's the first time it's actually come out on the podcast. Yeah. Controversy. We're vegan. But anyway, so I kind of how we didn't really have a big title on or topic name, something fancy. We'll have to try and come up with that. But really it's just how do we do the things that we know we need to do versus what we want to do? We can relate that to food. I know you have especially
to share.
Yeah, especially with, being pregnant and food aversions, and I don't think you've really experienced cravings yet, but and then for me, I have a ton of things also food, nutrition based, just general laziness versus knowing I got things to do. Procrastination, I think, probably more than laziness, but yeah. So how do we tie that into something that's relevant for everyone?
Right.
So you kind of want to give us a little idea on kind of what it looks like every day?
Yeah. Well, for us, it kind of seemed like it sparked through just a conversation we were having about my desire to constantly have brown foods, bagels, bread.
Yeah.
More bagels, more bread. And it just seems like that's all I've been craving. And so we were just...
Are you craving that or not wanting healthy food?
It's I'm craving that, and then I am craving those things. I think partly because of some of the nausea. Sometimes it helps with that. Just having those carby type of foods. But then also sometimes when I think about, I don't know, some of the healthy foods I used to eat, it almost just makes me feel averse
icky
to it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I know we were talking about okay, Anina, we got to make sure baby is getting everything he needs. And,
Yeah, because you only get one shot at it, right? You only get one
shot at this with this little one.
To grow baby properly, right?
Yeah. Very true. So it's kind of a lot of pressure sometimes.
Because every day, he's growing, getting bigger, cells are dividing, and if we think about it, where are these where's all this coming from? Where's all this new matter coming from?
Yeah.
It's from the food we eat, right? Gets broken down and, amino acids and all these different things and cell division, go back to basic biology and different things. It all comes from the food we eat, right?
Yeah, it does. And I don't want the baby to come out and just be
as a bagel.
Exactly. Give me a blueberry bagel, Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is. And I do see the importance of that. And so, you've been really helping me too, of getting some juices in. That's been really helpful. Using our juice machine, that's been nice to kind of have a little variety. And I've been able to palate those things. But yeah, smoothies just really gross me out right now. And so I've had to figure out ways to still get all those nutrients in. So started doing some of those the overnight oats with putting like the chia, the flax, the walnuts, blueberries, cinnamon, all that to help me get some of those other like omegas in there as well. So that was helpful. And I'm glad.
I mean, obviously you're on a prenatal, and so we know the bases are covered, right? So we're not like unhealthy, we're not unsafe, we're not doing things like that, but it's like we're not optimal.
Yeah, I
right.
haven't been optimal, right?
Like I'm not in fear of something bad happening, but I'm also saying like there's a lot of room for growth. There's a lot of room to from where we're at to optimal.
Right.
Right. I just have noticed like a lot. There was a period there where a lot of your plates were not typical from what you used to have, like all the colors, like you said, we are plant-based. So, so we would have like, a lot of vegetables and a lot of fruit. And that was just a lot of things I wasn't seeing, or, all your typical staples, kind of saying eat the rainbow, like, and you weren't having that big, bright, colorful salad, and you weren't having, all the fruits and,
yeah, and it was just like those other things were really
kind of the comfort
precedent.
foods.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
we know they're going to sit well. They do have and I will say they do have a kind of a draw to them, right? Like there's a reason people love carbs. I mean, obviously, like the processed carbs, like the breads and the bagels and stuff. Like, yeah, those are pretty good, but like, there's a reason there's a draw to them, because they kind of just give you that little rush. They're good.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, why? How do I say this? Like, so, what's the barrier from eating the healthy optimal level versus the comfort staples?
What's the barrier? The barrier is just like for me right now. It's just. Yeah, I guess it is just those comfy foods like that bring me kind of that little endorphin rush, and part of it too is when you're tired. I've learned that you want more of those carbs types of things because your body craves those when you're more tired.
Yeah.
So just being as I'm pregnant and tired, that kind of plays into that too. But I do know that I feel better when I'm eating more plant-based, enriched type of like whole foods too. So
yeah, high nutrient, low caloric density. It's like, so keep the nutrients high, right?
Right. Yeah. So, so yeah, I guess some of the barriers have been like in my own mind, where things just don't sound good to me. And so having to make myself do them feels very cumbersome, which has given me insight into, people who are trying to change their diets and trying to do different things, how that addiction can be so big. So plays such an important role too when they're trying to switch from, always eating these, I don't know, just big, huge carb-based meals and trying to like just do a new way of eating.
Yeah, and just definitely not to pick on you by any means. Like I'm 100% in the same boat as you. Like now, granted, I don't have anyone other than myself that feels the effects of that, right? So. I think people that have known me, like I have put on some weight from my typical weight from a year ago. Like I'm carrying more than I used to. Like I would still say I classify as healthy, but I'm not as comfortable as I was. Yeah. So like I love the training. So a lot of times it's just like, oh, I'll just train more. But then you kind of reach a point where you kind of can't train anymore. Right. So I've maxed out on that scale. So it's like, the things that, I would eat the ice creams or eat the junk foods or eat the extra stuff. So a lot of times even when I was eating healthy, my portions were bigger. Mm-hmm. So I'm still eating healthy, but like I would have seconds.
You'd overdo it on the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So same thing. I would find that barrier. And a lot of it came from training volume was increasing, training for these bigger events. So I was like, oh, I could just eat whatever. And then it got into eating whatever and junk or junk and extra, so, and then now, and then come fast forward, now I'm stuck with a habit of wanting higher volume.
Definitely becomes a habit. Yeah.
And having a hard time of getting rid of it. I'm not 25 anymore. I'm 35. Yeah, I'm not 45 or 50 where it's even harder, but I'm creating a habit to where if I were to keep going in a few more years, it's going to be really hard to get rid of it, right? So it's like we come into these things of like, how do we do what we need to do versus what we want to do?
Yeah, and kind of with you talking about habits, it made me think about like that habit loop I've read about before, where it starts as like a cue. There's a like a familiar, maybe like a familiar place or a certain time of the day that you're craving something, and then it becomes a routine. At 3:30, I walk over to the break room and I grab some chips, for instance, and then your reward, like what reward, are you getting it? Are you getting from it? So it's kind of like this habit loop that can start where there's like a cue, there's a routine, and there's a reward, basically. And sometimes the reward is the high that we get from, whatever that sugary, fatty food we're going for. Or sometimes the reward can even be, when you really start to break it down and think about it, it could be, actually, you know what? I really just enjoy being around other people and having that social hour when I go to the break room. Yeah. And so it's like having to tease it out a little bit and be very intentional of figuring out what am I getting from this too. That habit loop is a big, piece of it.
Everyone else eats the donut, the chips, the cookie, the whatever. I know we're sticking to food here, but I think food is a big topic, and a lot of people, especially nowadays in the U.S., that's obesity is completely on the rise. Unhealthy diets, the SAD diet, the standard American diet.
Mm-hmm. And I think this can even apply to like our thoughts too. It starts with a cue, it starts with a routine, starts with like a reward, and you get in this like loop too. So it's like you said, not just food, but other places too.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like we know, everyone knows apple healthy, donut not healthy. Right. But when given the choice, a lot of people are going to pick the donut, especially in a group, peer pressure, or, it's a reward or whatever. So, and we know that there is a reward tied to that. It feels good to eat it. Right.
Exactly.
But we also know it sticks with you.
Right.
And repeated more often, because once you get that in the system, and that brain remembers it, you're like, oh yeah, that was good. Right. I felt awesome when I was eating that.
This little habit loop.
Yep. So you're, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So kind of like you and I were talking about, like even back to like this pregnancy and craving these foods too, of like having to connect to your why, and how that is can be such a vital piece of, okay, so why am I doing this in the first place? Why am I trying to be more conscious about what I'm eating and not just, shoving down, bagel after bagel? But like, why? What is my why? Like, why do I care so much about this? And that's
I mean, not
really
only is it for your nutrition, but it's also, like we mentioned, you only get one shot at growing baby, right? I want you to be optimally healthy, but I also want baby to be optimally healthy. Mm-hmm. So for you, it's just like, how can we come at this from an angle of no judgment and not guilt, but it's just like, hey, we only get one go around at this. So what can we do? So how do you tie your why into overcoming that discomfort to know like, well, this is going to be the better choice? Yes.
And I think knowing that there is a little nugget growing inside of me, little baby, that does connect me more to like, okay, I want, our child to be getting the proper nutrients. Cause right now he's depending on me, to get him all these nutritious things. Yeah. And so it's something I want to do. But, even going beyond that for people, just if you're not pregnant and have other things in your life, I do really feel like connecting to that why. Like, is it because diabetes runs in my family, or is it because just these negative, nilly thought patterns? I know I can see it really taking over people's thought to my family, and I see how it affects them, and I don't want that. I don't want that constant stress on me. So it's just kind of, I think that's such a helpful way to keep you moving forward too.
Yeah, I think you have to find like we said, you have to find your why, But at some point you have to make your why a stronger pull than the what. Like I have to say, why is broccoli a stronger desire than donut?
Mm-hmm.
How? I mean, yeah, I like broccoli. Some people don't, but I think I would say most people like donuts, or insert healthy food, insert unhealthy food, however that plays out for you. Like at some point I have to say, like I will delay gratification. I'll delay that instant pleasure from said unhealthy food to tie my why to the healthy food. Like maybe like for you, you're pregnant. So like your why would be to help baby,
Exactly.
sacrifice my own initial comfort and desire because I only get one shot at this.
Right.
And I want to do it right. Okay. For unpregnant, okay, now it's just me that relies on this. So maybe it's like, I am just tired of feeling sick and tired. I'm done. I don't like feeling gross. I don't like feeling heavy. I don't like my joints hurting. I don't like the way people look at me with that disgust because I'm overweight, or I don't like not being able to do certain activities because I'm weak. So maybe your thing is not necessarily eating right, but maybe it's working out, or maybe it's reading a book. Or mental clarity. So maybe it's going to bed early. Insert whatever it is you want to do.
Right.
I think the food and the fitness thing is one that's, very, very personal for you and me. These are areas that we love.
Yes.
And I think most people can relate to them. I mean, but you can also insert whatever your thing is, and it's very applicable. Like there's a thing you want to do that is going to benefit you. I strive for it. I see myself doing it. I want to do that, but I don't.
Exactly.
Like I sleep in instead of going to the gym. Or I'll go to the gym later. Well, you're not, so at some point you have to create that why.
You do.
How do you do that? How?
And how do you do it? The application of it. I feel like I'd say for me, it's just being a constant observer of myself. Just always observing my thoughts, my patterns, my behaviors, which is something I used to just kind of go through life and was just kind of like head in the clouds, didn't really pay attention. But for me, it's like that, having to just be very observant of everything I'm doing, the way I'm acting, just the whole piece of it, because I feel like that really makes the puzzle, I don't know, it makes it feel like not such a complex puzzle anymore, but everything can start to fit together a little bit more seamlessly and doesn't feel like there's so many missing pieces because I'm actually thinking about what I'm doing and saying.
Absolutely.
What about for you? Like what's
very similar to that. So I had to be very observant about me and what I was doing. So, we're all, I don't want to say all, I was in a rut. And I think most people can relate to being in a rut, just living that habitual life. I do this, I watch Netflix, I go to the gym, but I don't really work that hard, or I do work really hard, but then I eat a lot or whatever. So me, that was it. Like I worked extremely hard when I was working or riding or training. But then I would also eat hard too. I would reward myself for that hard work, or I would come home and just YouTube, Netflix, chill out. So then I wasn't doing the other things like aside. So I wasn't being super productive like I wanted to do. I wasn't reading like I wanted to create habit around reading, around meditation, around being mindful about, reading and praying, spending time with you, quality time, making sure Cooper gets his time, So I would just be kind of self-absorbed a lot. And it was just bringing that no judgment awareness to myself of like, where are the areas where I can carve out to do the life that I see as the life I want? Like what's beneficial, like watching this mindless YouTube video, like that I don't really care about. It's just something to fill some time, or grabbing the leash and taking him on a nice walk, or making a really nice dinner for us, or whatever, just little things. So I think that was how I did it, was really finding and being aware of the rut and the habit that I had created.
Right.
That kind of just like formed out of just like path of least resistance, just the things that felt the easiest and the most comfortable.
Yes. Yeah. And it's like one of those things too, I think like, it's like the flesh always wants to, take over. It always wants to do what's the least path of resistance, the easiest thing. And man, breaking routines and habits, like those habit loops is such a challenge. I mean, it's a lot of work.
And we touched on it last week about those 30-day challenges. We're still going strong, and
we've missed a couple days.
Well, yeah, I've traveled, but I think I brought into some awareness of like, how did I want to deal with it? I think some things were just going to be very difficult on that, but I knew like, okay, do the best you can while you're gone. Hit it right when you get back, and I did. I felt awesome about that. Like a lot of times when those interruptions happen, it's over.
Yeah.
But I picked it up right away. I was so happy about that to be able to like start crossing those boxes off again. So it's going to be a 30-day challenge over 31 and a half or 32 days, but I feel really okay with that. Obviously, because it was the situation kind of out of our control with having to go to the funeral and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I inserted a challenge to disrupt my pattern.
Exactly. And you sound like you really you looked at it differently this time and didn't let those missed days derail you like it would have in the past.
Yeah. And I was like, I want to gain I'm gaining something from this.
Right.
Even if it's just knowledge about myself, how I act, how I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's for. That was the whole point of the challenge, not to necessarily create a new me, but it was like, I'm going to learn about myself. Why do I do the things I do? Why do I do the things that I don't necessarily want to do? Like, that's not right. I don't want to be like that. I know why I am like that. Like, how can I change this?
Yes, exactly. And I think that's such a great point there. And I think something too that's helped me even think about it as we're talking more is just something I've been asked before is, like, what are you protecting yourself from? And I think sometimes by not following through with things, it's kind of like protecting myself from failure or, breaking those habit loops, because it's like, well, now I can say that, whatever, like I gave it a go, but it didn't work out. So it almost like gives me an excuse to not see it to the end, to have that success.
Yeah.
Which sounds so like twisted, I feel like, because who doesn't want success? But sometimes it's like...
Success is hard.
It's hard. And then...
It's extremely hard.
Right.
It's painful. It's painfully hard. Real success is, right?
It is. I agree. And
so
sometimes...
That's the path of least resistance. That's human nature, to not put yourself out there, to not be vulnerable or avoid risk, right? I mean, because real success requires risk.
Yeah. Well,
so that's our nature, to avoid risk.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to get hurt. And hurt doesn't always mean physical. A lot of times most of the time I would say it's social and emotional hurt, right? I don't want to look awkward. I don't want to be the one in the group that's going the other way.
Yes.
I want to travel with the group.
Exactly. And then it's kind of like that. Even for me too, it's been like, okay, well, now I reached this, so now what? Now I got to keep pushing myself. And it just, sometimes you can like, I don't know, almost sabotage yourself just to getting to that next spot. Or at least that's what I've done in the past. So, So anyways, that's kind of...
That kind of really brings me up to something like, I've heard this a lot and it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of kind of research that's gone into that, and forgive me for not knowing off the top of my head of like what it is, but I've just heard, some psychologists talk about this when they're talking about people making lasting change and big change in their life, whether it's people finally deciding to quit smoking, get sober, quit doing drugs, lose the real weight, and lasting, right? Or change their life, make a real career change and pursue their purpose, all these things that are like big, like you can look over their life and like pinpoint a real change, a trajectory change. So what causes that. And they've kind of pinpointed it down to it. You kind of have to have something very great to create that, and generally it's not a good thing. It's pain is what causes real change. There's something that happens in our lives, to us, from us, whatever, that creates real change. Either they finally hit rock bottom. I mean, we've all heard that said, but like, what does that mean? What does that feel like? That would be a painful experience.
Yes.
Like, if there's drinking or drugs or whatever, maybe it's a health scare from poor nutrition or, so that's pain. That's real pain.
It is real pain. Yeah. And sometimes until we have that, it's like, sometimes you need that motivating factor, like you said, just to get you.
Yeah. And that's kind of what scared me, because it's just like, yeah, okay, I'm a few pounds over what I want to weigh. I'm still healthy. And, I think most people that know me would say I'm healthy. I look healthy. I'm active. All my blood markers and all those things are great. But it's just like, so how do I make that lasting change or to stick to that?
Exactly.
Like, I don't have that big pain moment. Like, so how do I do that? Or how do I make that big career move? How do I really dial into these things? Like, if I don't have that big moment, like, how do I create that stimulus to make a significant change?
Yeah.
What do you think?
As you were saying that, I was like thinking that in my head, like, I think it's part of it is like visualizing what you want for yourself. Like, what is your ultimate goal? Kind of like looking at, what is my purpose here on earth? Like, what do I feel like I've been put here to fulfill? Like, kind of what's my role? I think that can be really helpful, but sometimes we don't know that, right? It's like, I don't really know why I'm here. Feel like I'm just kind of floating through life.
Yeah.
And I think it's just one of those things where it's like, you just got to stop and just start thinking about it. And it's hard to think about that stuff and to do the hard thing of having a deep, I don't know, kind of like a deep conversation with yourself and writing it out. I feel like for me, it's like really just writing it out, journaling, and having those around me that see a vision for me that maybe I can't see in myself. And sometimes it can start with just like, what are some things I'm really good at? What do people tell me I'm good at? And like, give me kind remarks about when they talk about me. And sometimes you just got to hold on to those things for a while to kind of see, where you feel like you're called to do and help you move to that next step. I
think kind of like what you're touching on, a lot of this, like if you don't have that big health scare, or the hit rock bottom moment, there's a vision. You will carry a vision of the you that you want to be. Mm-hmm. I carry a vision of the Evan that I want to be, the father I want to be, the husband I want to be, the son, the brother, the friend. There's an ideal image of what I feel that should look like.
Right.
I'm not there. I'm not living that. Why? Answer that question.
Right.
Don't be to the point of bringing judgment and harshness, but be honest.
Yeah.
Own your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, yeah, but make change. I think to me that brings up the what, and then you have to find the why of why it's important to do those things and be that, like we just talked about with your grandma and how that conversation spurred the who we wanted to be.
Yes.
The family member we wanted to be, the friend we wanted to be. And our why is because these people, I care about these people. I love these people. I want to be the role model for my son to be like that. So that is a strong why. So I have to let that why be greater than my comfort and my normal, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think we all have this tendency to just say, this is comfortable, this is easy, this is good enough. So I mean, we can't expect perfection out of every area in our life, but there's some areas where we need to put in the work and do the hard work, do the hard thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think sometimes asking yourself just as open-ended questions, like, I've asked myself the question before, like, who would I be if I stopped clinging to my old beliefs or my old way of being, and so sometimes that just helps open the door a little bit to think about who would I be if I quit holding on to all these old things, and it's like,
that's
ooh,
powerful.
Yeah. Let me think about that.
I mean, because it allows space for change. It allows freedom for change, and it allows room for growth. I'm not stuck to that. I don't have to continue that. And it doesn't mean I'm bad because I have done that all the way up to this point,
Exactly. You're right.
I think that's really powerful. That's really strong. So, yeah, I mean, and it doesn't mean we have to live a rigid life. I know we talked about food and stuff before. It doesn't mean I can never eat the ice cream or the donut. It just means I don't need it every day. I don't need it every week. I can go long periods of time without, and I can learn to love and enjoy healthy foods. I can learn to love and enjoy healthy proportions. I can learn to love to and enjoy getting up and riding my bike or going to the gym or running or hiking or whatever. Fill in the blank, reading a book instead of watching videos. Like there's a lot of things that we can do. To flip, find that more optimal.
Yeah. Thing. And it is. And sometimes I think just tricking your brain a little bit, I think about like, yes, you know what? We're going to watch that YouTube video, but let's read first. And then I feel like by the time I'm done reading, I'm like, and now I'm good. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause kind of letting it say, we can do that, but let's do this first, and then I don't know. It's just kind of crazy the way the brain works, but that helps.
That was really
sometimes.
cool. Like, it reminds me of this. I forget his name. He, extremely obese, extremely overweight. And he went on I'm not recommending this, but his thought process was really cool. He ate nothing but potatoes for an entire year. But it was really like he had a massive, and the reason he went to one food, and he did it very thoughtfully. He said he thought about bananas, he thought about mangoes, so he ended up on potatoes. I think, and it was all from the idea of addiction and variety. So if I have all these varieties, I'll keep going back for new tastes. So if I know it's going to taste just like the last one, and it's just like the last one. So he ate potatoes for an entire year. And he said he would even go to, like, he had an addiction with McDonald's. So it was really interesting. He said he would even go to the point of like driving to McDonald's and being in the parking lot, and he would have that exact same thing. Like you said, he would say, oh, fine. Yeah. You can have anything in there after you eat all these potatoes.
Right.
And he said by the time he got done eating the potatoes, just didn't want it anymore.
Good.
And he got through it. And I know, Rich Roll talks about this also when he was getting sober. He was a lot of you, if you've listened to him, talks about it very openly. Was an alcoholic, struggled with that, and he said, "You can have a drink tomorrow.
Exactly.
Get through today."
Right.
And then he'd wake up. A lot of times he'd feel fine, or he'd have that conversation again. You know what? Just get through today. You can have a drink tomorrow.
Exactly. It's so powerful.
He finally got to the point, and I'm sure he still has those kind of like pulls and draws to it, but it's just, you got to get the new habit started. You got to dig a new rut, a new normal.
Yes, that's so true. The stuff is so cool to me, just how the brain works.
Oh, it's powerful.
And how you can
you
trick it a little.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get the new rut started, right? Like you got to plow the ground and pull out all the old junk. Your body, like the physical sensations of your body revolting because it's used to that and wants that.
Yeah.
The sleep routine or the chemical sensations from food or anything.
So true.
All those things, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like a frozen over ground. Like it's not easy to dig in.
Yeah, I mean, even the chemical sensations from, like being on social media and YouTube and all these things, like the people that design these apps and social media apps and everything, I mean, it is literally like a slot machine with the instant hits from notifications and different things. So I know we use it and we love it. We like to talk about the things that we're doing and talk about the podcast and coaching and different things. But I mean, you got to be controlled.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true.
That's really cool. I mean, I'm really excited. I think this was a great conversation. I'm by no means out of the woods or perfect or have it all figured out, but I'm learning about myself. I'm open. I've come to this point in my life where I'm having that open discussion of like, I'm not where I want to be. How can I get there in a safe and healthy and a, good way for my head?
Exactly. And like our coach always tells us too, right? Like saying like, we're going up the hill right now. We're not going to stop up the hill. We want to enjoy the ride down. So it's like, keep working.
It's a struggle. I mean, it's a struggle. It's an uphill battle. It's an uphill mindset. Like that's his big theme. And
like you can't go uphill with downhill. Downhill thinking. Downhill ways of doing things.
He has brought something to my attention, and it's something that I'm kind of bringing on, and I kind of would like to share it with you.
Who is that? Our coach?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me see. Yeah, that it's basically that, you don't have to be I really like his philosophy in, striving to be the best, or, I got to be the best. Like, I want to, like, being the best would be cool, but like, I just want to be world class.
Oh yeah.
I just want to be world class. So and it's not settling, because I think that's an awesome thing, but like, I want to be effective in the things that I do. And it's not for me, and it's not for my glory. It's because I feel like I have something to share, and I want to help people. You know what I mean? There are people that desperately need and desperately want change in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to help that. I mean, I want to create world-class behavior in my life to be a catalyst for change in other people's life.
Yeah.
Like huge. There's nothing that I'm doing that is so, or so awesome, but I think I just want to be able to show that it can be done, and that you too can live a world-class life.
Exactly.
I mean, there's great purpose in everyone. We are all given we're all given gifts, talents, and abilities. And I think, and I just have a utopia image of what it would be like, what life would be like if everyone was fulfilling the purpose in their life.
Right. Yeah. It's really cool to look at. It's like so neat to look at every human being we encounter, is that, whatever they have a purpose that's been placed within them, and whether they're homeless on the street or kind of being cranky to you at the grocery store, it's like, it's all right. You have a purpose, and I know you do. And I really pray you find that, one day. And so anyways, okay. Well,
no, that's awesome.
Wrap us up?
I think that kind of wraps us up.
Okay.
Yeah. We kind of touched on a lot of cool stuff, and I feel good about it. How you feel?
I feel good.
Anything kind of that you need to touch on? Or
no, I think that's it. I think that was great, and it was helpful just to get some things off the mind and just talk about them. And like you always say, we'd love to hear any feedback that you may have. And
our contact information will be in the show notes, so check that out. Email. Social media, you can reach us on all those forms. I know sometimes we kind of get caught up on digging on it, but I think it serves its place. It's definitely a super amazing way to stay in contact with people, meet new people. We've met a ton of awesome people through social media, so it's definitely really fun. I love to use it, but it also just needs to be, with its parameters. So.
Right.
Yeah. So with that, I think we'll just wrap everything up there. And thank you, everybody. And we'll see you in the next one.
Sounds good. Bye, guys.
Peace.